My name's Francisco. I was born in Mexico in a city called Guadalajara, and now I live here, Canada, Edmonton, Alberta. My family moved here in 2000. I was 8 years old. One of my earliest memories, I remember going into elementary school. First day of school there, I didn't speak any English. It was like sort of tough, obviously, being a new kid. One, being from a completely different country, two, and then obviously not speaking the language. So, sort of like in Charlie Brown, where they're like, wah, 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 wah. Like that's sort of, that's sort of what all I was hearing. And then I remember one of the kids that was sitting close to me was like, blah, 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 like a football, we want to play football, like recess or something. And I was like, oh, football, like football, soccer. Like, yeah. I love football. I played football all growing up. And then I remember going out in recess and then they just like start tackling each other. So I was just like, what the hell? This isn't football. And it was just like a first sort of language / cultural thing where I was just like, oh shit, like I just completely did not understand what they were talking to me about. About like a year later in grade 4, I was like really comfortable and had friends and spoke English pretty decently. So I think that was like, yeah, one of the core memories that I remember. I had a pretty good time at school for the most part. Like I was able to make friends pretty easily and just integrate, I guess, pretty easily. Sweet. So yeah, that's good. I have 4 siblings, and so I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. I was always doing things with my brothers. We're all like a few years apart in between us, just playing games or making up stuff or going outside and just getting up to no good, really, just as kids do. I've always been pretty athletic and sporty, so I've always liked being active. So right when I came here, I joined like a soccer league with, like under 10 soccer league. And then I played soccer until I was 14, 15, all the way to like rep soccer. And then also in school, I started playing like volleyball and basketball, which became like big parts of my life as well. I enjoy sports. I enjoy getting my sweat on and being a little competitive. School was never really like a huge issue for me academic wise. I always liked going to school because I played sports. So I'd always look forward to like after school to practices, to doing sports and things like that. And also it was a great time to just see my friends and spend time with my friends. I used to draw a little bit when I was young, maybe when I was around 11, 12 in elementary. I used to draw little comics when I was young, around that elementary school. And that was mostly inspired by, there's this book series, I don't know if you know it, Captain Underpants. Yeah. So I used to have this like superhero that I made up, and I would like make little comics of it. His name was Hairdo Guy, and he was just pretty much Superman, but he had like a super long like hairdo, super huge. It was very dumb. But then after around that period when I started junior high and didn't really draw and start drawing again until I was in my mid to late 20s. Immediate family, just a couple people are more into arts, and they've been into art for a long time. My dad comes from like an architectural background, so his family as well. Like some of my aunties and my grandma used to paint a lot. One of my older brothers is also an architect. He was really doing art a lot, and same a little bit with my younger brother, but I guess I never really saw it as a path for me at all till like I revisited it many years later, like 10, 15 years later, that I decided to just get better at it. After high school, I went to the University of Alberta and I started my degree there for sciences. And at the time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do or like what my career path was going to look like. So I sort of started just general sciences in there. And then after a year and a bit of that, I was just like, I don't think this is for me. Then I took time off school for a year and then just worked. And then I went back to school, started my education degree. And at the time I had gotten a job as like a youth asset worker, just working with youth in the community of St. Albert. So then I spent the next few years just doing that. So I went to MacEwan University and did 2 years and then transferred back to U of A and finished my degree. At the same time, I was like working as a youth asset worker and stuff like that for many years. I worked for the municipal government for around 6 years doing youth work, because I was always sort of the type of person, especially after high school, where people are like, okay, like what do you want to do with your life now? And you're like, I don't know. Like, there's so much out there that I don't even know what I like anymore. I guess it was also a very transformative time in my life where I transitioned from like super athletic sports to maybe a little bit into more nerdy and reading a lot more books, like fantasy books and stuff, getting into like Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. And I didn't know what answers I was looking for, so I didn't know what questions to ask. I might ask for advice for someone, but if I don't know where I'm going, if I don't know what my goals are or where I want to be, then it was like really hard to maybe find those people to ask those questions. Yeah. I was working as a youth asset worker for many years and doing that. And I had just finished my degree, and then I just went straight into teaching. As I transitioned away from doing youth asset worker for the city and started working as a teacher, I sort of quickly realized that maybe this wasn't the career for me necessarily. So I taught for a year in elementary, and it was a very stressful time in my life. You have to deal with a lot of different things, not only just like the kids that you're teaching, but the curriculum, the parents, the administration, all the things that sort of go into teaching schools. And so at that point, once I finished that contract, that temporary contract, I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't think I can do this. I don't see myself doing this for the next 20, 30 years. So that was sort of like a transformative time in my life where I always felt like maybe the things I was doing was to maybe appease in some way other people, or appease like expectations of like what I should be doing or what seemed like the right next step or whatever, versus maybe what I wanted to do and grow in for my own like personal development and sort of for like my soul, I guess you could say. So one of those things was just like, I just wanted to start drawing again and just learning how to draw better. Like I said, I never took any formal art classes or anything like that. So just really just starting to learn the basics of drawing and just being, I guess, more creative, I guess. I bought this book that it was just like filled with different prompts. So it's just like, draw whatever this, and then you just start drawing more. So I started doodling more. I always found like Japanese tattooing very interesting. I just liked sort of how it always looked. So even back then, before I even started drawing or started getting tattooed or things like that, I always found that art style to just really be very bold and striking and stand out really cool. I always liked looking at just like large body suits. And then I just like got more interested in just how it works and started watching some videos on some masters and them speaking about their process, more of a like a art process than like a focus on tattooing. Yeah. I think I had noticed tattoos ever since I was maybe like post high school, early 20s. Some of my friends had gotten tattoos and things like that, but I never necessarily thought that I would start getting tattoos and getting to tattooing. It was never like a thought of mine. So I always found tattooing to be very like, sacred, I guess. Permanently marking someone forever, and they're letting you, and it's sort of like this trust between you, this sort of like little energy exchange almost that happens every time you tattoo someone, Yeah, so my first tattoo, I got it on my leg. It's like a tiny little snail from Adventure Time. Adventure Time is a cartoon, on Cartoon Network. And every episode has this little snail. So I thought it'd be a cool little tattoo to just have, just sort of hiding on my body. My parents come from a different era, as I'm sure a lot of people's parents and grandparents do, where they see tattoos maybe tied to a different connotation of people. So when I first started getting tattoos, it was mostly like my upper leg area or like my upper arm area, places that could be very like hidden. And I just always would wear long pants and flannels or sweaters around my parents for a long time, for like years, as I started getting a little bit more tattoos. It was just like getting a little bit more into it and just drawing a little bit more, drawing more tattoo related stuff. I started drawing a lot of like trad, American traditional stuff, and just designing little things and going to talk to like tattoo artists and things like that as I was getting tattooed, and just learning a little bit more about tattooing. But it was more like a curiosity thing. It was more just like, I just want to learn more. For a few years there, I just wanted to just continue drawing and get better at drawing, and then come up with something to be like, okay, I'm happy with what I've come up, and I think this might actually lead me into doing a portfolio where I like can show people. And at that point, I also wanted to not go into like an apprenticeship and not know anything about tattooing. So I started doing a lot of research on tattooing, needles, machines, like how do you do a setup, things like that. And then I just bought like a shitty Amazon machine. And then I just started tattooing like shitty fake skins that I had bought on Amazon that were terrible. And at the same time, I was just like working just retail job. So I didn't have any further responsibilities or anything like that. So I could really just go home and draw for hours or like practice tattooing on like oranges or whatever. But as you and I both know, it's very different when you get to practicing real skin, right? So I remember I tattooed myself a couple times in my kitchen, really just trying to feel what it is like to get tattooed by like you. Yeah. And you sort of get a lot of data from tattooing skin, right? And I took that data to like when I started tattooing friends at the shop and stuff. Some shops were like more receptive than others, or most of them were just like, yeah, this is cool, just like keep working at it, blah, blah. Eventually, like I was able to just like sort of get an apprenticeship just because I was hanging around that shop a lot. I was just going and helping out whichever way I can after work, or whatever they asked me to do, I would do it, or help them out with conventions or whatever, right? And then I just like went full into tattooing and like quit my job and just started working there and just like helping out, cleaning, being there every day at 9 in the morning, 9:30 in the morning till 5, 6, 7, whatever time, and just trying to be there as much as I could, and just either be drawing, sketching, painting, or trying to get people into tattoo. And that hasn't really changed from then till now. So I think it was like the building the confidence that took me the longest to just like actually be like, do you want to do this or not? And if you want to do this, go in and do it. And I think around that, it was around like 2020, like late 2021, that I was just like, okay, like the only way to do it is to do it. Just showing up as much as I could, being there, building relationships with the artists there, with my mentor, with people at the shop, trying to just like help them out in any way, cleaning, picking up phones, taking messages, like saying hi to clients as they came in, like things like that. So yeah, it's like a gradual process, I guess. I think the first client I tattooed that wasn't a friend was actually a walk-in. A walk-in. I was like super scared, obviously, but at the same time, I'm like, I think this is something I could do. Like, it's not like a crazy design, and it's something that is within my skill set. I was just like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I like put the stencil. It was like this Sasuke curse mark from Naruto, and he wanted sort of on his neck, shoulder area. I just set up and did it, and at the time, I think the machine I was using was not necessarily the perfect machine for me. So it obviously took me a little bit longer. I was like trying to pack this like black area, and it just took a long time. And he was happy with it, and we chatted for a long time, and he was like super cool dude. I was nervous as heck, but it turned out fine. So I don't know. I always have doubt in myself, but like we were saying, it's good to have that and to never be satisfied with the things that you do necessarily, because it keeps you striving to continue building, right? I just want to keep learning and slowly getting better. And it's more about just the consistency than it is about like the product necessarily. I think a lot of people are scared of failure, but I think failing is the only way you learn. That's one of the quotes from Adventure Time that I really like is Jake the dog says, sucking at something is the first step to becoming good at something. Most artists that I've known that I really admire are people that are constantly working at getting better. Yeah, you're like a very established tattooer and you have a lot of clients, but then you still are like painting and drawing and working on sketches and things like that. And I think that's really important. And it also shows like the passion behind what they're creating. So I always relate to people that are just like working hard, but that's just maybe because they connect more to me, I guess. Yeah. I try to draw every day. I'm usually, when I'm here, I'm drawing or painting or doing something at home. I'm usually doing either working on, tattoo projects or drawing for clients or doing other little projects around the city that I work on. But I think what I always start with is like, okay, what sort of structure do I want to draw? And usually it'll be like a back piece or like sleeves or even just like if I don't want any like structure, I'll just like, okay, it's just going to be a whole page painting. What is it going to be of? I don't know, I'll just start sort of sketching. But I always just like start with just random shapes. And I'm just like, oh, like light sort of shapes, like, oh, this could be kind of cool, or this kind of be kind of cool. And then I just sort of wait for there to be like a spark of inspiration almost. So like, oh, this looks like a snake, or like this looks like it could be cool if there's like water flowing, like random shit like that. I really like drawing background, like Japanese background, drawing a bunch of like waves or clouds or lightning or like random things. And then I'm like, okay, cool. What elements can I include here to work and sort of make it look cool? And sometimes I do the opposite. So there's not really like a system that I do. You can't get hung up on like the tiny little mistakes and imperfections, because you're the only one that sees that. Sometimes if it's like, this is the only thing I do and it's all consuming, like that's great for like focus and things like that. But you also have other relationships in your life, especially if you have a partner and friends, and you like to do other things maybe in your younger life or in your older life, that I think is good for creating separation between those and giving yourself like almost like rest, mental rest, stress rest, things like that. I probably should go to the gym more than I do, but I play volleyball, rec volleyball with some friends, stay active, and I play disc golf a lot in the summer, just to get out there with friends and huck some discs and enjoy the weather. You really want to take advantage of summer because it's like short and like the light is only there so much. So like you really want to be like outside as much as possible in the summer. So I try to do that. Just more like reading books, comics, things like that. And I have a couple friends that we play Dungeons and Dragons every week, or like every other week. It's still very, very creative because you're just like creating everything on the spot and like improv a lot of the things and stuff like that. Just trying to keep that social life alive, because I think relationships are important as well. Yeah, but those are some of the things that I like sort of every week or every month tend to do. Yeah.
That's it, man.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Okay. A lot of talking. Holy.